Well, I saw join in. First 2, 4. Great. So I want to be on time. I know your time is important. So it's now 12:30, a few minutes after actually. So I'll get started. My name is Isabel Litzler. I'm a career coach, entrepreneur, and I do write in blogs regularly about career development, training, and also anything around entrepreneurship. So you can find my blog articles on my website, which, by the way, my website is on the right-hand side. You should be able to click on it if you want to read on it and find out what I do. So as for you, if you're in career transition right now, you're looking for work, you haven't been working for a long time, let's say you've been at home for multiple reasons, this is the right place for you, because networking is going to be a key card to play to get back to work or gain experience. So I think this is very important. And I want to congratulate you for joining today, because I think this is the first active step you're taking in your career. So congratulations for joining in. As for logistics, you will find a link on the screen where you can click to ask questions, and you will have a Rubik's Cube. This is for Q&A, so I will see the questions also on my screen, and I can answer live during the webinar. If for whatever reason you were able to ask the question, I can do that on Meetup a little bit later. I will make myself available to keep answering questions. I think this is important. So no more on that. Let's get started. So the first thing is really to understand, I want to make my presentation in two different categories. So I want to explain a little bit about networking, the principles, and then we'll get into tips, because I think this is what you're coming to get today, is really concrete information. What can I do concretely to move from maybe not having a network at all to having something concrete a bit later. So firstly, the first thing I want to do is really demystify what networking is about. I think many people have it in their head that networking is this really complicated thing, and they're very shy, they don't really know what to do. So the first thing is really to demystify what it is, and I will explain a little bit in the tips how you can do that. The other thing is really that there's two types of networking in my view. There's really online networking and offline networking. I will also discuss how you can brand yourself in the two different aspects. And also the other thing is to understand that people are not natural networkers. So probably right now you think, well, when I observe certain people in different events and I think they're great, they're wonderful, I can never get as comfortable. This is wrong. Anyone that's a very skilled person right now in their job started somewhere. So you're not born someone that's natural and that's very good. You just train yourself to become that person. So if you look at, for example, athletes or actors or singers even, they weren't born. Madonna wasn't born, doing what she does right now. She just works very hard every day. Or if you look at really wonderful actors, I just learned recently, for example, Sylvester Stallone still trains a lot, even though he has all these years of experience, So if you want to become very good at networking, it's going to be important to put it in your agenda and to really train yourself on it, and you'll become someone that's very good. So the other thing is really to take networking as something a bit like you're going out to meet people, and to lower the pressure a little bit, because I think sometimes people put a lot of pressure on themselves, and that's when they become nervous and maybe they don't get as much out of the event as they could. So this is going to be a very important part, is to try to take it more as a, I'm going to meet people, I'm going to make myself known, show what I do, and take the pressure a little bit down. So a researcher called Granovetter in the 70s actually found that there were two types of networking. And I want to talk about it because I think it's still very much valid now in 2016. So there's what he calls the weak ties and the strong ties. So the strong ties in networking is really all about the people that you know very well. And this is where most people are very comfortable. It's your friends, it's your family, you can trust them. And usually when you lose your job, those are the first people you will talk to. And you will go to them and say, if you know anything, just let me know. And this can be quite powerful because the trust is there. So you know you can rely on them. The only problem with it is that it's limited. Obviously, you have so many close friends that it's not going to be a big network that can really get you some results quickly enough. So this is what Granovetter said. This is great. It's great connections, but it's not enough. And to get more results, you need to go towards the weak link. So the weak network is really the people that you don't know yet. And they're people usually that are outside of your field of expertise. So I'll take my example. When I was working in human resources, most of my network were human resources professional, and it was great, very comfortable. We could understand each other immediately. The problem with that is that you get to the limit in terms of maybe understanding a little bit more about different fields. And the power of the network is really people who can give you feedback, who can give you maybe contacts of people you would have never thought about. So the multiplicity of contacts you can have is going to be very rich for you. Unfortunately, this is where people have the most trouble. And I've been doing career coaching for a few years now. And this is where people usually come back to me and say, you know, this is great. I send my resumes. I have been talking to the people that I know. But when I ask about, have you gone to new events, met people you don't know yet? This is usually where I get a blank because it's not comfortable. Let's face it. Let's be very frank about it. For most people, going out of comfort zone is painful. And I use the word painful because I think it's a little bit like a sport. You know, if you start training at the beginning, you have pain. And unfortunately, this is where people sometimes say, you know, this is too complicated, this is too hard, and I better stop. Well, anything that you will acquire as a skill will take time. Studies have showed that it takes 66 days to change a habit or to put a new habit in place. So if right now you're not, I'll take the example of sport. If you want to become very good at something, probably the first 60 days you will have pain, it will be difficult, but you won't see the change immediately. So it's the same thing with networking. You know, at the beginning, it will be hard to get out of the house. We're winter time right now. It's raining, it's cold, to go out, to meet people you don't know. But you will see the results after a while. So maybe not immediately, but you will see after some time goes by, you will start getting contacts that will lead you to things. So it's important to remember this concept of weak network and how to develop it. So I hope that the tips I will give you now will lead towards developing this weak network. So the first tip is really, in my view, is to think about the end result. Because right now you're going to say, okay, I need to develop my weak links and bring new network into my life. But how do I motivate myself? Because human beings, we're based on motivation, right? This is why, you know, for work, we need to understand compensation and how much I get paid. This is how most people will get up in the morning. Again, it varies. Some people will be motivated by a mission or by having other kinds of benefits, but we need to see that benefit. So when you think about networking, it's really picturing yourself with the end result. So for example, if you're looking for a job in a particular field right now, maybe picturing yourself sitting at the desk in your ideal company, for example, would be a motivation. So if I want to get there, I need to go through these uncomfortable steps of going to events or networking online. So it's really having a vision for yourself, and that helps you keep the motivation to go forward. So motivation could be multiple. It could be also maybe you have another objective, which is to build a business and you want to make it move forward as well. So you can picture maybe having a bigger business or more clients. So it's using the vision and the visualization of your end goal. And actually, this is not something I've invented. It's based on a lot of theories that are used in the market. You have also the power of, you know, just visualizing where you want to be in life. This is actually called The Secret. So I won't get into this theory right now because it would take probably another hour, but The Secret is basically a book, it's a movie, but it's all about that visualization of where you want to be in life. And if you keep focused on that, probably it happens. And it's also a little bit linked to physics. You know, the more you do something, the more you get returns. And that's what I tell clients as well, is the more actions they will take towards their job search, for example, the more they will get some benefits. So it's all about the universe and the energies that we put in what we do. So that's step number one, is visualization and having an end result in mind. The second step is really to upskill yourself. This is going to be extremely important because if you don't feel equipped to do something, you probably don't feel comfortable. So let's take the example of going skiing, because right now it's the snow season and probably a lot of you can immediately understand. If you go to the mountains, you don't have the proper ski equipment, you're not prepared physically, probably you will feel a bit uncomfortable and you won't be a good skier. However, if you come and you have the right equipment, the right skis, you're in good shape, you've trained yourself, probably you will do better. Well, it's the same thing with networking. You know, if you don't have the proper tools, and by that I mean, so you need to upskill yourself in public speaking will be one of the areas. A lot of people are not comfortable speaking to people they don't know, and that goes with communication skills. So it is definitely something you can improve. You don't need to be someone that's born a natural speaker. You have a lot of classes, a lot of consultants offer these services where they train you with public speaking. You can take vocal courses, singing courses, anything that helps you with voice. Talking about it, I need a little bit of a drink right now. But anything that will train you with your voice, with your tone, will help you definitely develop your network. So anything around public speaking, singing, taking theater courses. Theater will also work on your posture and your body. I noticed that people that cannot speak clearly are usually people who can't posture, don't have a good posture. So it's all about confidence, and confidence can be learned. It can be something that you train yourself on with repetition. So this is why, for me, this is the beginning step. Before you even go anywhere to any events, it's really working on these different things. Dressing for success is also important. If you don't dress the part, you won't feel comfortable. If you go to an event where everyone is in suit and tie and you're coming with your jean and t-shirt, probably you won't feel at ease. So all these things is almost a makeup to make you feel comfortable. So if you go to an event, you have the proper suit on, you have your business card in your wallet, you know what you're going to say. This is already 90% of the work done, and people will even come to you because you will show that you're someone that's consistent and who shows confidence. So this is why I'm trying to also tell people how they can bring people to them, as opposed to having to do so much effort to attract potential clients, network contacts, etc., etc. So dressing for success is important. And nowadays we tend to judge people based on what we see. And based on what people are presenting to us. So it's important. So the business card is also an important factor. I can't say how many times I meet people who say, I don't have a business card, or I'm working on it. It's not going to be very serious. If you're going to networking events, people expect that you have a business card. So this is something to produce quite fast, and you can get a business card fairly quickly now with online services, very fair price, basic information, because this is the question I get. Well, I'm looking for work, I don't really know what to put, or I'm in career transition. Having just your name with maybe the field that you target globally, this is enough, so that people are, at least they know your name, they know where to find you, maybe on LinkedIn, or they have your phone number, any contact details where you can be reached. This is going to be very important. So that's tip number 2, is really upskill yourself. Give yourself all the training, all the tools, so that you can be comfortable when you go to events. Now, tip number 3, it's about making it simple. I think nowadays we have very busy lives, we do many things, and I think it's definitely a trend I notice. I see a lot of people being too busy. They're in so many things that they can't even keep track themselves. Keeping a simple life is what's working for me. And by that, I mean being focused. What is it that you want? And you can have too many things going on, otherwise you get yourself confused. So really focus is something to work on. What is it, the one thing that you want this year, for example, you know, and really focus on that and have a plan on that particular objective. So for example, I usually advise people, if they don't really feel comfortable going out of their comfort zone, to try simple, you know, going to one event once in a while, start getting to know a few people, making it manageable for them. So it's all about what's working for you, you know, and it's not going to be the same advice depending also on what you do. For example, if you start a business and you need to really sell, I think networking will have to be taken to a different level fairly quickly. However, if you're an internal auditor or you work in a family office where confidentiality is key, you do want to network to get yourself known, but maybe in a different way, and maybe you don't need to do it as often. So it's really your networking approach or plan needs to go with the type of thing you're trying to put in place, your objective, and keeping it simple. So that's where you really need to think about what is your objective, what do you want to achieve with networking? Are you doing it for looking for a job, developing a business, and then you put the plan in place of where you need to go and how you need to present yourself. But all this for me is preparation. And I've seen so many people in events where they're confused, they don't really present themselves very clearly, or they do too many things, you don't really know. So what are they about, and it's difficult for the person who's meeting to understand what they can do with your card, for example. If you introduce yourself as, I'm this and that, people don't really know, okay, do I contact you for this part? Or so you have to choose your battles. So in other words, if you're someone who does different things, let's say that you're writing a cookbook, but you're also someone looking for work in IT. Let's just take as an example. You choose the events where you would present yourself as the IT person, and then you choose the events where you present yourself as the book writer. This way people know. So for example, yesterday I held a presentation for my business, Connect Startup, where I introduced myself as an entrepreneur for the online website. If I go to other events, I'll introduce myself as the career coach because this is my target at this particular moment. So it's okay to have maybe a few things going on, but you need to choose in the meetings you go which part you're going to show, because it's marketing. It's what is this particular audience expecting. So I go to this event maybe to talk about my book, or I go to this event to talk about my job search. So it's really, you really have to choose how you introduce yourself and stick with that one thing. Doesn't mean in the conversation you can't enlarge a little bit, but remember, people get confused when you start talking, going in too many directions about who you are. The other thing you need to be thinking about is the social media. Pick one social media if you're not quite comfortable yet. It's a lot of buzz right now with social media, with having a profile on LinkedIn and Facebook. But I think people forget that you have to manage it. Otherwise, it's not efficient. And not everyone, again, has that particular feel for it. I've met many people who are not really comfortable online. So you have to think again about who you are and how you're going to manage that. And I really advise for people who are beginners in the social media world to stick with just having LinkedIn, because it's the basic one for career development. And to have a good LinkedIn profile is already one big step. And then you can develop other social networks based on what you do. If you have photos, you can use Pinterest. If you have, maybe Facebook could be used as well. But to me, that becomes a little bit more complex, and it doesn't go with the staying simple principle. So what I want you to remember out of this is really one action is better than nothing, but it's easier to manage. So if you start with too many things, probably you get yourself, you're tired and you won't get to everything. But if you start with one action, it's much better. So that's tip number 3. So moving on, tip number 4, and then I will open up for questions, because I do want you to ask questions. It's important. It's going to be to build a good pitch, a good presentation, oral presentation. So the first thing is really you have to understand the profile in front of you. So a pitch for me is something that you have in your wallet, just like you would have your business card. You have it ready if you're asked, or if you feel it's the right time to give it, but you can't rely on giving your pitch to everyone that you meet. So you have to be a people person. You have to understand who you have in front of you. Sometimes I go to events and I meet people who just want to talk, and they will talk to me for 15 minutes nonstop. I can't even say a word, but that's okay. Maybe they just needed to speak, or I find the other way around, where people have nothing to say and you have to bring in the conversation and fill in the blanks, which is not easy. So you meet very many different people, and they all have different communication styles. So you need to adapt and see who you have in front of you. Just like you would need to learn also people that you don't really have much in common with, or you're not connecting with, not to waste too much time. Otherwise, you don't make the most out of your networking events. So going back on the pitch, you have to prepare a pitch. You have to prepare something that you will say that's 100% memorized so that you can feel comfortable building around it. So I have different methods that I present when I do my workshops on pitching, but there's one that I particularly like because I think it's extremely simple. It's the wow, how, and now method. And I didn't invent it. It's someone actually named Brian Walter who pushed that forward. And the method is basically a 3-step method where you start with really saying something interesting about yourself. And we all have something interesting. Maybe we travel the world, or we were in a particular field, or we work in something interesting, or basically if you have a business, it's something that you do that will attract people. And I use the example for this webinar with the accountant. I save my clients 50% of their tax bill yearly. So anything that's linked to you, if you can save people money, or anything you can do that's quite interesting for most, will attract the attention. So it's something exciting that you do, that you say in a one-liner. And then the wow is really, the how is really how you do this. So you want people to ask you questions. Tell me more about this. And you can quickly see if they're interested or not. So if they say, tell me more, then you would say, okay, I use proven methods and I'm happy to share them with you anytime. And oh, okay, what kind of methods? That's the type of answer you would expect. And then that's how you share a little bit more. So the idea is really to go step by step. I think sometimes people, when they go to events, they try to say too much immediately and they get confused, because no one wants to listen to somebody for 10 minutes talk about their education and how they do this, and they start giving their resume as if they were in a recruitment interview. It's not really something you do in networking events. Networking events, it has to be short. And you don't want to say things unless the person in front of you is showing interest. Otherwise, you're going to be not interesting for this person. So this is the method I use to have something ready in case, people ask, what do you do? And then you're not sitting for a minute thinking about it, or you're not saying too much. You have already your thread. But again, remember, this is something to use only if you're asked. Otherwise, you also have to adapt to the person in front of you and what they're looking for. And sometimes it can go in different directions that you didn't expect. So that's why I say training in public speaking or taking some classes will really help you being comfortable also talking and something that you maybe haven't prepared, but you're able to improvise. And that's something you learn in acting courses or in singing courses. It's improvisation. You do some exercises around that so that if something goes non-planned, and it happens when you're in the artistic world, you have to do something. So that's what happens in networking events. You will have the person that throws you off. You don't really know what to say, but if you can master improvisation, you will probably make it work for you. So that's my 4th tip. So now before I give the other 4, I want to open up for questions, especially if you have to leave early for whatever reason, so that you feel like you had the opportunity to answer your question. Again, to answer the question, it's basically typing on the Rubik's Cube, so that you can feed in your question. And if you can't think of a question immediately, I will also check to see if there are some questions. So I don't see any questions at this stage. I have one that I've prepared that I thought might be interesting for you. The big thing is I don't have time at the moment, or I never have time. I'm really busy. How do I network? I have a very busy schedule. I have children, husband. How do I network? You can do it in many other ways. The first one is really how to use the power of online networking. If you connect even in the evening and you join groups, you can do a lot of networking online. How you connect with people, maybe you ask them some questions. This is something that you can do, and I will talk in a minute about LinkedIn. This is something you can use also in your free time. Also, the other thing is to go to only one event once in a while. Everyone can fit at least once a month an event that they can go to. So it's to keep it simple and focused. And the third one is to actually use the power also. It's really a new economy now, but with Twitter chats, Facebook chats, a lot of experts now offering their time, just as I'm doing right now, to go on webinars and Twitter chats and things like that to show their expertise. And you can ask them questions live. And this is something you can fit in your calendar, usually around lunch hour or evening. So if you haven't had the time, you can always catch the information somehow. So that's the power of the web now, where we can have this almost unlimited connection with people outside of the typical 9 to 6 type of schedule. So if you're in a situation where you're extremely busy, there's always going to be some type of a networking event online or a chat, a webinar where you can join in and get the information and get also to know some people. So that's the response to that question. I don't see any that are coming up. The fifth part is really about building the social network profile. This is going to be extremely important for you, especially if you don't have a lot of time. And the one I like to use is LinkedIn, because I think it's very relevant to career development, more than the other networks out there. So LinkedIn is something that I find interesting when you're looking for work to be on. And I'm definitely open to do more formal training on LinkedIn. And this is something that you can share with me on Meetup if you are interested in having some in-person training on LinkedIn, but really to go into the tool and set up a profile and learn some more advanced function, because I think this is something that many people don't know how to use, especially the more advanced function. So if you find that you are interested and you want to learn more, let me know, because I can always organize a training, a formal training on that. So on LinkedIn, what you want to have is the basics right. So by basics right, I mean have a nice professional photo. That's going to be extremely important. To have a clear header. This is also very important on what you do. So the big pitfall I see is that people are not clear on their positioning. And I find that every day. They want to do something, they're doing something right now. So there's the what I want, what I am, and it's not connected really, and it's not clear. So when you post online or when you have a profile online, you need to be clear on how you brand yourself. Again, it doesn't mean you don't do other things in your private time, but you need to pick and choose. So when you're going on LinkedIn, let's say I go back to my example, if you're an IT specialist, but you're also writing books, if what is your objective on LinkedIn? If it's to find work, you're definitely going to put on there that you're the IT person looking for work. But you're not going to talk about maybe your book writing, because this is not relevant for your project at the moment. So you have what I call your hobbies, your other interests, but sometimes people kind of mix the two, and then for the person reviewing your profile, it's not clear. And again, you have to remember, recruiters don't have a lot of time to spend on profiles, so you need to speak to them directly. They need to be 100% clear when they see your profile. This is what this person does, and this is why I should contact them. So there's a little bit of work. This is my first stage when I work on career development with individuals, is positioning. Who are you? What do you want? What is the objective you're pursuing right now? And if you have other things you're interested in, this is great, but it's not relevant at this stage. So it's picking the profile, how you're going to brand yourself at this stage. So I can help on that definitely if you have some questions afterwards, but really don't make it another resume. This is also the pitfall, is that people tend to put LinkedIn as another resume, and this is not good for your branding. You need to see it as a marketing tool, just as a business card. You know, your LinkedIn profile is, okay, I've seen in a snapshot what you could do, and I definitely want to contact you. Oh, I see a question. Great. This is exciting. Would be a good idea to have two LinkedIn profiles if you're interested in two things. Well, I'll use this sentence, and it's philosopher Confucius, and Confucius is definitely a writer and a philosopher who has proved throughout the time that he has something interesting to say. And his phrase is definitely the one that tries to catch two rabbits catches none. So I use that in my business strategies. It's focus. And if you listen to other career coaches out there, writers and philosophers and everyone that's working on the subject of career development, chances are you will hear similar things. It's focus, it's choosing your one thing that you want to do. So I would not suggest to have several profiles saying too many things. I would suggest to pick really the one profile that you want with what you want to do. I mean, it doesn't mean, or you have to really separate it clearly. So maybe on LinkedIn, it's for your career development, and maybe on Pinterest, you could have your photos of your paintings if you're a painter. So I'm not sure what the two things are. If they're quite clearly separated, and I'm thinking of artists because it makes sense, you're a singer or you're a painter, maybe you can have one profile on a particular platform, and that's clear, that's what you do on there. And then on LinkedIn, it's for your career. And then people are clear then that they contact you via a platform for your art, and they contact you via another platform for your career. And that way there's no confusion. So I think I would do it that way if you're trying to brand the two, but definitely don't try to brand too many things in too many platforms. Otherwise people won't know what you're known as, unless again, the two things are also related. So it's an extension of service. And I'm thinking about my case when I have Connect Startup, it's an extension of coaching for entrepreneurs. So I have it on Google Plus as two different profiles. But if it's two separate things, and I'm using the example of the artists, and you're looking for work, then definitely you want to keep the two separate. So this is the answer to this question. Okay, so I don't see any more here. So now going on LinkedIn. So once you have your profile that's clearly stating what you're looking for, that recruiters can go and actually see, okay, this person I'm going to contact because they do something very specialist skill, you know, in IT, or, you know, this is what I can expect from them. Again, making it clear to contact you as well. Sometimes I looked at LinkedIn profile and it takes me a long time to understand how am I going to contact this person. So you have a section called summary, and this is where you could actually put, you know, your contact details, your website, your phone number, your email. This is going to save a huge amount of time for recruiters, because when you open up a profile, the first thing you see is the top part. And I give the same advice on resumes. The top part is really the most essential. And again, it's really thinking through the person reading. They're going to look at the first section of the resume or the first section of an online profile. So this is where you want your content to be clear. The rest, you know, you can work on a bit later also if you can't do everything at once, but at least have the first portion, the header and the summary 100% clear, so that people can say, okay, this is what this person does, and this is why I'm going to contact them. And once you get comfortable with the tool, then you can start really tapping into the power of networking online, adding people to your profile, joining groups. And what I was saying earlier is the law of the energy floating. The more you will do on LinkedIn, the more you will see results and the more people will contact you. So if you just set up a profile and you have 2 contacts in there, that's not going to help. You need to have a certain amount of contacts added to start seeing a little bit of action. That's when you see also other people post, where you can engage with them. So you will need to dedicate some time to your building your online network. And this is something you can do during your private time, but you need a little bit of strategy to go around that as well. You know, what kind of information do you post? Why do you post it? And for some people, it's not necessarily something natural and 100% clear. So this is also where I work with clients on building up their branding online, their profile, what type of things they could put forward, being in their domain, and being seen really as the person, the go-to person. That's your objective, is you want to be seen as the go-to person for a particular aspect of your career. So you develop your network by developing your expertise and by developing your knowledge. So the more knowledge you will put in your online networks and also your offline networks, the more people will view you as someone that's the person. And that's why I go back to my focus. If you're 100% focused, if you've trained in a particular field very well and you know the answers, then that's how you build the expertise that people will come to you for. If you're too much of a generalist, you're going to be the same as everyone else. You know enough about certain things, but you're not the go-to person. You're just one of the other people. And especially on the Swiss market in Geneva, people are looking for experts in certain fields, whether it's in IT, in finance, in any field. Recruiters are looking for experts that could come in and know exactly what to do on a particular issue. So if you start branding yourself as this go-to person, it's going to be very helpful. So that's my speech on LinkedIn. So having a good profile, well written, a good photo, start building up your profile so that you're seen as the expert in your field. And you want to build up also the writing part. So the public speaking will help you for the offline networking, and the writing skills will help you if you want to start posting maybe blog articles, or you want to write in groups, you know, maybe start commenting and things like that. You need to have proper written skills. So starting group discussions is also a good way to brand your profile online and to network. Definitely when you're in groups, you can network with each other. If you see people maybe that are similar to you or going in the same direction, that's also one way to communicate. Now you're going to ask, well, what about the, you know, should I pay for premium membership on LinkedIn, or what is the most efficient? The answer to that is really, again, to start simple and small. When you start something, the basics is usually enough. Just to create your profile online, you don't need to pay for that. To add contacts, you don't need to pay for that. So start, you know, already tapping into mastering these preliminary activities. And once you have that, maybe it's the time when you say, okay, I need to do more. I need to, if you're a business, for example, maybe it makes sense to have the possibility to send more emails, but maybe not. Maybe at the moment, all you need to do is just contact a few people and start building the rapport with these people. And if you're focused, you want to develop quality over quantity. So for example, I get emails all the time in my inbox, and I can tell it's an email that goes to the whole network. So people, let's say, will have 200 contacts and they'll send the same email to the 200, maybe changing the first name of the person. But you can tell it's not a personalized email because it's just the type of the way it's written. And that's not usually very efficient, because you say, okay, this is a copy paste of something that is sent to everybody. It's the same if you're looking for work. You know, if you send to all recruiters, hi, you know, I'm looking for a job. Do you have anything right now? It's not going to be very helpful. What I find is helpful is to actually spend a lot of time preparing your email to a person, really searching where they work, what kind of culture, what type of business, what do they need? That's the first thing. When I write cover letters for clients, I spend a lot of time looking at the company, what do they do, how the person could position themselves. That takes a long time. Of course, you won't be able to do a lot of emails if you approach that way, but they're going to be much more efficient than sending massive emails to massive groups. And that's why I think you don't necessarily need to have access to potential of sending many emails to many people, because they won't reply probably if they don't know you. So it's better to pick people that are responsive to your particular profile and build up on that. So if you start with a small group of people that you feel comfortable writing to, start already building the rapport with these first bunch of people. And it's the same with going to events. The goal is not to get as many cards as you can, but really to start having a startup network, and then work on these. And then after that, those people will recommend you elsewhere. So that would be my advice on how to tap into both online and offline, building a network there. Start small and grow from there. No more question before I move to my tip number 6. I don't see anything on screen. So tip number 6 is, of course, you can go to events, but again, people tell me, well, there's not much going on where I live, it's complicated, etc. Why don't you build your own group? So this is actually even more efficient, because then you're really building up your own target of what you want. So I'll use the example, if you're an accountant, for example, and you don't find a lot of interesting things around to go to, well, maybe you start around a particular topic. Maybe it could be accounting for entrepreneurs, or something that you want to master, and you want to attract people also around that subject. Well, maybe you build your own group. Now it's very easy, whether it's on LinkedIn, on Meetup, anyone can start a group. And that way you attract the kind of people that you want in your network. And you can start also with no cost. You can even have the event in your home if you can. And I know people who do that. So no costs, people come to you as opposed to you go to them and you have travel, etc. So you start your own network based on a topic, based on an interest, based on something that will help your career. So you build it on your own. So that's my tip number 6, is build your own network. Tip number 7 is really to look a little bit outside the box. So networking should be part of your strategy if you're looking for work. For me, what's important is also the before, during, and after. And again, it goes to preparation. I was saying earlier, if you want to really get the most out of it, you have to be prepared. You have to think about what you're going to do. Why are you going to this event? Why is this event something that's of interest to you? And it costs money most of the time. Very few events are free. So you need to make the most out of that. And I don't see people necessarily having a strategy when they go to events. So the first thing is, why are you going? What do you expect from it? What kind of people are you expecting to meet? Give yourself objectives. I want to meet at least 3 people today and get 3 cards. That's at the beginning. Maybe once you become more of a natural networker, you get more cards. But at least at the beginning, give yourself some small objectives and go there with a plan in mind of, this is what I'd like to get. The other thing I see a lot of people having trouble with is during the event, there's really the during and after. So during the event, it's when do you collect the card? How do you collect the card? You also need to get that card quickly. And it still happens to me now, and I've been networking now for many years. When I talk to someone, we get into a conversation, and next thing you know, the person is pulled by somebody else and you didn't get the card. And that's really a waste of time, because you're not tapping into the power of connecting with this person. So make sure you ask at the beginning, look, we're in an event, it's really busy, and I know you're going to have to go probably soon. May I ask for your card? And then, you start talking. I think people are used to that as well. So it's not seen as rude or anything, but it's really to make sure you're not missing out on something, on a potential opportunity. So ask for the card quite early on, and make sure you give yours as well. This is why it's important to have a card. Because if you want people to reciprocate, if you're asking for a card but you don't have one to give, probably either people won't give it to you, or already you're putting yourself where you're not equal. So it's not very good from a communication perspective. So collecting cards is good, but then comes my after the event. So let's say people are very good. They have a plan in mind. They go to the event. They collect the card, and then what happens? The card stays in the wallet or somewhere in a desk or in a drawer, and that's it. So why, you've spent the time and money to go to the event and you're not making the most out of it. So my tip there would be to have a system in place, and I talked about it yesterday in my event. Well, I call that business card management. So you're tapping into all these business cards, but how do you use them afterwards? What do you do with them, as opposed to putting them in a drawer? So really looking at a system where you manage your business cards is going to help you as well grow your network. So for me, there's 3 different things you could do with a business card. And that's what I've noticed throughout the years. So the first case scenario is the business card of the person that you don't really have a lot in common with, and you don't really know what you could do immediately. They're not in the same business as you. If you're looking for work, they're not really your target. Anyway, you don't know what to do with this card. Well, I would suggest to keep it in a place where it's easy to retrieve the day you need it. So maybe you put it in a file somewhere. And the other reason to do this is because maybe at some point someone will say, look, I'm looking for a lawyer and I can't find anyone. Do you have any name? And that's when you will be very happy you kept this business card from this lawyer that you didn't need yourself, but you will bring so much value to this person where they say, wow, you gave me a name of a lawyer. And this is how you build your network. It's really, you become, I go back to what I was saying, the go-to person. You're the master of connecting people. And that's really how you can brand your image as well. So by doing the simple business card management, you start building up a little bit of a resource there for yourself. So keep these business cards, even if you don't need the services of these people, they will become people you can give as resources to others. So that's the first case scenario. The second case scenario is the person that's perfect. It's the one person you wanted to meet because they can help you get the job that you want. Maybe they're a recruiter or they work for the organization you target, or anyway, they're this person that you really want to meet. This is going to be your priority card. It's going to be the person that you want to contact, keep warm, keep engaging, so that you can at some point maybe meet or have an interview if it's a recruiter. Definitely this card you should use, and you should have a plan for how you're going to contact this person. So that's case number 2. And case number 3 is really the person that's in between. So they're not exactly the person you need, but they can lead you to something else. So maybe they know people in the company you target. So these people, same thing, you want to keep working on that contact. So the first thing is to look at, do they have a LinkedIn profile? That's usually what most people do is, okay, they go to the online world and see if they have a profile online. So if they're in LinkedIn, connect on LinkedIn, because then you can keep the conversations going. If they're not on any social media, then that's when you use the old way, maybe email and phone. I usually tell people to use email because I think phone is a little bit too abrupt when you don't know someone very well. Phone for me is something you schedule nowadays. People are extremely busy, so I don't think you will have someone immediately on the phone. And if they don't know you very well, they probably won't take the call. So you want to warm them up a little bit more, maybe send emails at the beginning to exchange, maybe schedule a call a little bit later. And that way the person is expecting your call. So for me, it's a step-by-step where you meet people in person in an event, then you add them online, then maybe you start chatting a little bit to get them a little bit warm. And then when you see that they're warm, maybe you move on to the conversation on the phone, which is premium in this day and age. People are not very easy to reach. So I really look at in-person meeting and telephone as premium contact now. Most people, they will just talk on email if they don't see an immediate need to engage with you. So this is my tip number 7 about how to manage the before, during, and after. And I think these 3 steps are extremely important if you want to make the most out of your events and make the most out of your contacts. So before I move on to step 8, is there any more questions on the screen? I don't see anything here. I'll just take a little bit of a drink. So tip number 8 is actually something that's quite recent now, and you may not think necessarily about it, especially if you're not a freelancer. But using co-working spaces is quite helpful because it can help you with the whole idea of connecting with people in a nice way, where you have the space that's actually conducive to that. Because when maybe you're looking for work right now and you're at home and it's hard to get out of the house. So maybe considering getting a co-working space, you can do it easily now. They have packages online. You can either buy by the day or by the hour. And that could be something that gets you a little bit also socialized with others. So even if you don't go there every day, just, maybe going once in a while, being in a network that way where you're introduced, because the plus of co-working spaces is that usually you're introduced. So you don't have to do so much work around going towards others, but you're embracing a group that's already made that's going to bring you in. So that's actually good for people who are a little bit alone, maybe right now in their job search, or need that extra contact. So you can go to the co-working spaces, sign up for them, and grow your network that way as well. I think it will give you that. I was talking about the ties a little bit earlier. It will bring people in your closer ties that you can count on, and that can make you feel more comfortable later on to broaden your spectrum a little bit. So going to co-working events, I see that as, using co-working space, I see that as an easy way, immediate way to get more contacts and to grow your network. So a few more tips I want to give you quickly, but just randomly. The first one is to start with events. It's a little bit of a repetition of what I said, but it's to summarize basically the webinar last minute tip. So really start with events in your comfort zone. Start little, so go to events where maybe you can meet with people that are alike at the beginning so that you can move from that, but slowly. Have a great card made. Don't go to an event and say, I don't have a card. That's horrible. So even if it's a simple, cheap business card, but something that you can give to people with your name and your field, that's the base for me. Offer your help to people. So what I was saying, even if you get cards that you don't really know what to do with them, that becomes your resources. When you meet people, just offer what you have, even if it's just giving people restaurants. You know, in Geneva, we have a lot of newcomers. I meet newcomers all the time in the Geneva events. They're just off the boat. They don't know what restaurants to go to, which places are good. If you've been already in the area for a while, you can help a lot of people just by giving simple advice, and they will remember that. So if you meet someone and you told them about a good restaurant or a good place to go to, they will remember you. And when they have something, they will think about you. That's just the way it works with human beings. You know, if someone does something for us, we will think about them. So really think about that when you meet, is provide value, provide advice, just tips, and people will like that. Go to events as a group. That's also helpful if you're a bit scared or you don't know what to do. My experience has been that when you go as a group, you probably meet less people because it's harder to connect with a group. So if I'm going to an event and I see a group of people already made, it's hard to break through. Whereas if you go on your own, then you're easily approachable. So that's just the trade-off of it. But at least at the beginning, if you're a bit worried about going alone, if you go as a group, it's better than not going at all. At least you made an effort to go out of the house and to meet. So go as a group and try to see how that works for you. You know, if you still met a few people, if you receive value from that. But again, the best, so I would recommend start as a group and maybe go alone a little bit later so that you can have, you can see and compare both. But again, the best network in my view is when I went to events. The best value I received in networking events is when I went alone and I went to events where I knew nobody and they were completely outside of my field. Because this is usually where you would get a huge learning curve. People who could maybe bring you a perspective you didn't even think about because you're so much into your own model and you're meeting similar people. So you're not seeing that, you're not getting that breakthrough. Whereas if you go to events that are completely out of your loop, then that's when you get the most, that's when you advance. That has been my experience. So the theory of the weak ties has been actually proved in my experience. So this is it for the formal presentation. Again, I want to see if there's any questions on networking or how to improve your networking. I don't see anything on the screen. So what I will do is just leave it up to you to ask me questions on Meetup, because maybe sometimes after the presentation, you might say, okay, I'm thinking about this and I have to ask. So I'll check the Meetup group and see if there are some questions. This webinar is going to be recorded. It is recording actually at this moment, so you can have it on replay, or maybe some friends of yours that couldn't connect, they can watch it on replay. If you want a free consultation, because I talked about what I do, which is career coaching, don't hesitate to contact me and I can work more precisely on your case, on your particular situation, because this is a general presentation. And also what I'd like to hear from you about is what kind of topics are you wanting to hear about on webinars? So you can suggest some topics to me that, that you know you're interested in and you want to get more information about, because this is work in progress. I have a few dates planned for the next couple of months, but I plan on doing this regularly. So if you have a topic that you want to hear about, just send me an email and just say this is something I'm interested in. And if I see that there's lots of interest around it, I can build a webinar on it. And the next one is upcoming 7th of April. And it's going to be more for the entrepreneurs in the group, how to write a business plan. This is the first step. This is important to have things set up properly in your mind and on paper. So this is happening early next month. So I try to do mixed events. Some are really more targeted for entrepreneurs. Some are for mostly everybody, just in career development in general. So I try to do a little bit of both. So if there's no more questions that I see on the screen, I will close the webinar now. Okay, well, I want to thank you again for joining in during your lunchtime. I appreciate that. And I will keep in contact with you via Meetup. And I'm also on other platforms if you want to contact me. I hope that this webinar was helpful for you, that you received a lot of precious information that you can start applying quite fast. And again, I will see you soon. Thank you.